There's so much to talk about this morning that the papers are reporting. And to do justice to what these papers are reporting for us this morning to analyze and review those papers with me, I have Dr. Christopher Okon, a communications expert and a public affairs analyst. Dr. Chris, good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning to you, Ike, and good morning, esteemed viewers.
Now let's get straight to the papers. So much, as I did tell you, so much about the coalition discussion is what you will find as we begin the very first newspaper for this morning from the Nation newspaper. And it's all about the coalition. As it says here, ADC, Wike tackles Amaechi, Mark, Malami, others, comes with a rider, denies ex-transport minister made him politically, ex-transport minister there is Amaechi, vows to resign over 48 billion NDDC payment claim. In that interview, he had alleged that the wife of Amaechi, got some benefits from the NDDC over the empowerment of women. And he had said in that interview, begging Mr. President to release the forensic reports of the NDDC, which captured some of the claims that he had made. And he has said that if the report comes out, and the claims that he made are not even captured, he will resign as the FCT minister. Of course, he wants the president to release that audit report. And he goes on to say that Nigeria buried under Buhari, Tinubu on a rescue mission. These were conversations from the fallout of that interview he had yesterday. It's also captured in this day newspaper, the issue of the coalition. Coalition to unseat Tinubu in 2027 doomed to fail. Wike Sanwo-Olu declare. Also, with the riders, FCT minister tackles Amaechi, urges president to release forensic report on the NDDC. Lagos state governor condemns political distractions. Governor's defection won't save Tinubu. ADC from defeat, says Dalong. Baba Ahmed. Struggle for presidential ticket is the biggest test for the ADC. Babangida Aliyu, Niger PDP deny joining coalition. I've also seen reports of possible a defection expected from some governors. I have read that they're wooing some governors as well, but we will see how things pan out in the coming days. Let's continue. Same coalition issue captured in the Punch for this morning. From the Punch, it says here, ADC targets 5 governors as Sanwo-Olu Wike not coalition leaders. PDP governors ready to defect to our party. Anti-Tinubu group hallucinated, says the PDP. You also have a sprinkle of this same coalition matter as we take it straight to the Vanguard. Vanguard is not left out on this particular issue. As it says here, this time, specifically Lamido, who says, I will support Obi if he emerges the coalition's candidate. That's from Lamido. Goes here to say, Obi has support everywhere, including the North. Ibrahim Nakande says, North may have no choice than to support Southern candidate, the Middle Belt Forum, the MBF. North will not be deceived again. Obi may renege. Muhammad Malami says. And still on the Vanguard, anti-Tinubu coalition will fail. A statement credited to the Lagos state governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu. We would not leave one paper out before I bring my guest to tell me what he thinks about a lot of this coalition reports captured by the paper. By the way, most of the dailies for today captures the mood of the moment, the coalition, and the many, jabs, the many reactions to the coalition formation. Come with me to the first news, not left out as well, as the FCT minister in a television interview says the former transport minister has spiritual problem. Wike explodes on national TV, accuses the former transport minister of lies, hidden wealth, and hypocrisy. Let's welcome Dr. Chris to officially tell us, give us his take on what these papers are reporting, especially the issue of the coalition, which seems to be the biggest conversation across board. Dr. Chris, Let us look at this coalition issue.
Well, first of all, it's very exciting to see the headlines as it repeats itself almost on every major
most of the dailies
newspaper.
Yes.
I'd like to start from Wike. First of all, Wike is running. It is interesting that Wike is running the Federal Capital Territory like a small country. So he has whether you like him or you hate him, Wike is somebody that is a go-getter. So as far as his mandate in the FCT is concerned, you cannot say that Wike has not performed well. It's
not in doubt.
He is one of the most responsible ministers in terms of mandates and in terms of vision interpretation. However, in terms of politics, he also seems to be playing a different game entirely. He's an extremist, so to speak, politically speaking, the way he communicates, because some of his communications are toxic. That is the other face. So he is a two-faced person. So politically, he may not be doing very well, but in terms of administratively, in his job as a minister, there might be a national consensus that is doing very well.
You said politically he may not be doing very well. Why?
Doing well in the sense that the way he speaks about, the way he's so passionate about his ideology, his personal, he wants to compel everybody to think like him politically, and he does not seem to agree that he did not emerge from the moon.
You're a communications expert.
Because I am looking at...
You're a communications expert. You use the term compel. Holding an opinion, that's not compulsion.
Well, there's a compelling opinion that is possible. That is, if somebody is trying to compel you by every means to stand by his opinion, it's also a compulsion, even though it is not compulsory. Now, the point I wanted to make, Ike, is that Wike is trying to present a picture that he is not. For instance, he cannot claim that he emerged from the moon. That you were chief of staff to a former governor, and you said that governor
did not make you
did not make you relevant. That is illogical. That is illogical, and that is taking how do I call it, compelling communication too far. Okay, and somebody was a former Speaker of the House of Assembly, and you said it was nothing. No, so I think that, notwithstanding the fact that we disagree, we have the right to hold our opinions, but we don't have the right to underestimate and undermine, abuse or insult our friends and our associates, whether they are opponents or they are not, simply because they are not sharing the same platform with us.
Abuse, insult. Has he insulted anybody?
Well, insolence is a very big term because there's a way you describe yourself. Like you are trying to create a larger than life size presentation. That is where I don't agree with him. There is nobody that was not made from somewhere. Former Minister of Transportation, Amaechi, has his own strength, has his own weakness. So if you go to Port Harcourt, the real estate, you still see people and will tell you that this is the man that emphasized some level of development in terms of the quality of schools, in terms of the quality of health infrastructure, in terms of some roads. And that builds up into the SDG, and even the
social development goals.
Yes. So that development is not evaluated through noise making. It's through your quota of contribution to human survival, to human welfare. So if they have issues about struggling for power, that is a different thing. But it's not about, it should not be an abuse. It's not about, you should not attack families, should not attack. All what you should be talking about is issues as to why you disagree with him and why your politics is better than his own politics. I think that should be on the table. Then about the coalition. Now, like I have said this a couple of times, that what the coalition is doing is what every democracy should have. Every leader slips into dictatorship without a check. And who is supposed to do that check? In a multi-party democracy, the check is on the opposition. And the PDP has been playing a very docile opposition to the APC for the past 2 years. And there is need for a strong opposition. A strong opposition makes a better government. An opposition is not supposed to destroy government. What they're supposed to do is to show the weaknesses of government and show what they would have done if they were them. To that extent, it makes the government to get better by trying to work harder to cover up the loopholes. To that extent, they even achieve higher target than they wanted to achieve for themselves. So there's no need trying to be jittery. There's no need trying to be worried about the emergence of opposition. What the federal government or the APC-led government needs to do is to deliver on the mandate, is to ensure that the policy that they are bringing on board, their revolution on agriculture is seen and felt and can also be seen on livelihood, is to ensure that their strategy on education, their technology incubation strategy that they are bringing on board, the TVET, it works around and people can feel it, is to ensure that there is credit facility for the nano, small, and medium scale businesses. Those are going to be impacted on the voters who are businessmen. But to politicize a reaction to the coalition is to destroy the essence of democracy by itself. Because you are going to see a diversion of interest. The APC-led government should not be distracted by the coalition. What the coalition should do to them is to motivate them to perform more. But if they are distracted and they now begin to make a second-term project become their only project, that is when the coalition will defeat them. And you can mark my words, the APC-led government cannot underestimate the coalition. When the APC-led government are distracted from delivering on mandates and begin to join issues with the opposition, whose effort is trying to grab power from them, then they will fail.
Let us look at some very, very interesting aspect to this coalition, because if you look at most of the papers, this is exactly what they are frontlining. That's what you have in most of the papers headlining the issue of the coalition, especially some of the reactions given by the FCT minister to their emergence and the people who are leading this coalition. Now, the allegations he made with regards to the former transport minister and former governor of River State's wife about the handling of monies with the NDDC, he even went ahead to plead that the president should release the forensic report for some of the indictments he had made. Very damning.
Is the president supposed to release an indictment report only of the former minister?
Release the entire report.
It's the entire report.
Yeah, but he's not. He said,
it's the entire report.
He said, release the entire report.
And that report was made under President Buhari. The audit of the NDDC project was made under President Buhari. And why did the federal government not release the report?
Well, he accused the former Attorney General, who has now joined the fold of the ADC, that's Malami, of killing that report.
So the idea of keeping the report is not about Amaechi. That is the illogical connection. The idea of releasing the report is for the betterment of the country. There's nobody that will be opposed. So it's not about the call of that is over sanctification. You know, I do not see any difference between Amaechi. I do not see any difference between Amaechi and Wike. Therefore, Wike cannot claim that Amaechi is worse than him. That is the point he's trying to show, and it's not necessary. And let me add it for you, Ike, before you proceed. That it is Nigerians that are going to measure public officers. Public officers don't measure themselves. Wike does not have...
But then, if you look at the argument of the FCT minister with regards to some of the statements credited to this coalition leaders, especially the people who are the frontliners, with the fact that Nigerians are angry, Nigerians are hungry, statements like even they, the coalition members, are hungry. Now, in his interview, which I watched, he had said that these people held sway at some time in the nation's history. He spoke about David Mark. He spoke about the former transport minister. He spoke about some other coalition figures that when they held sway at that point, were Nigerians not angry? Now, so the analysis that the FCT minister gave with regards to mentioning names and how they have said that Nigerians are angry and they were going to latch on that anger to grab power, that these people are not supposed to be the ones saying Nigerians were angry, that they were on a rescue mission. That why do they want to rescue the nation now? When they had the opportunity, they didn't think the country needed to be rescued.
It's not new. So it's not a new commentary, either by Amaechi or by Wike or by any of the coalition members. You know, when the APC came to power, they lashed on the sentiment of Nigerians who were also angry. So it's not new. The point I'm making, Ike, is that I don't see any angel, I don't see any devil. Everyone in the political arena is the same. Everyone is trying to weaponize poverty, weaponize hunger, and weaponize people who are aggrieved to grab power. That's what the APC did. And that is what the coalition wants to do.
You don't think this coalition is on a rescue mission, as they claim?
Well, it depends on who is talking.
They're all talking.
Some of them
They're all
maybe.
talking.
Nigerians are the ones to judge who are the people who are qualified to talk about hunger,
the rescue in the country.
Yes. So among the APC, there are still people who have the qualification to talk about hunger because they have a record of fighting hunger in their own different jurisdictions in whatever office they held. And I've said this before. The president of the country was a pro-democracy activist. And it is on record for him that the strategy that he used as Lagos State governor to devolve power, bring down power to the smaller unit by creating development areas for Lagos State was a strategy that has really helped. And to that extent, I look at the president as somebody who will naturally be able to fight against oppression. Okay? However, in the opposition camp, there are people and there are characters that could be listened to by Nigerians.
Such as?
For instance, you have seen in the analysis, even Lamido said so, that if Peter Obi were to emerge as a consensus candidate, that he will vote for him. A lot of Nigerians look at Mr. Peter Obi as a credible voice for the voiceless and for the helpless. Even when he lost the election, he has not caused trouble, he did not announce violence, he did not initiate violence, and he has continued his philanthropy across the country to places who were able to welcome him. Now, like I said in my other interview, and I can say this again, the choices between the APC-led government and the ADC are very clear. If the ADC resolves to bring a certain candidate to face President Bola Tinubu, the election will be tough. And if they resolve to bring Peter Obi against Tinubu, the elections will be tougher. But if the ADC brings a northern candidate against Tinubu, the election will be won before the election
your analysis will pander towards the part of Baba Ahmed Dati, who had said that the biggest challenge before the ADC now will be who the ticket should go to.
Absolutely. It's a clear logic. It's a clear logic. And no matter who wins at the end, it will be a plus for our democracy to have a tough election, a close election, where at the end of the day, when the winner wins, he will be humbler. He will be loyal to the country. He will be more patriotic, okay? So, but that is why the role of the coalition or of the opposition is very, very important in a democracy. And nobody should be talking down on them. They should be allowed to do their job, while those who are in government are trying to ensure that they deliver on their mandate to sustain their voter strength. That is the logic of winning an election in a civil society, in a civil.
Let's go to the Punch. There is something I want us to look at from the Punch, where the ADC says they are targeting 5 governors. 5 governors. Recall also, in the analysis of the faction, we have been hearing that governors, mostly from the PDP, are being chased. They are being wooed to, the APC. The ADC says they're targeting 5 governors. Where do you think these 5 governors will come from? The APC fold or the PDP fold?
Any fold. Any fold.
Are there governors in the APC fold? Dr. Chris, are there governors in the APC fold that the ADC can poach at this point, who are aggrieved with the APC?
Not now particularly, but when it gets closer to the election, especially second-term governors in APC from the north, and when it is
none of them are threatened at the moment.
No. The point I'm making is that the closer it is to the election time, the better it will be to understand the movement of governors to either of the political parties, And what the ADC is doing is to try and ensure that they have more governors to their fold. They are trying to attract governors. But that is not the only thing they should do. The greatest challenge before the ADC is their ability to peacefully, and I underline the word peacefully, bring out a presidential candidate that can be a match for President Bola Tinubu. Because President Bola Tinubu has gained more grounds in terms of the country structure. He has encroached into the South significantly with the governor of Delta and the governor of Akwa Ibom.
And even with the whispers of Bayelsa, Rivers in the offing.
Yes, and also the River State when he returns back. So that means that the Bola Tinubu, as the president, has encroached into new territories. But so what happens to the coalition? The coalition is going to be leveraging on a candidate who can match President Bola Tinubu in his own territory. And that includes the Southwest and the South-South. Because that has become the emerging territory of Mr. President. So any candidate that cannot contest with Mr. President in Southwest and in South-South and contain in Southeast and North Central will not be able to wrestle power from President Bola Tinubu. It's just a very straightforward logic.
I see. Now, the question I want to ask you, where does this leave the Labour Party, the NNPP, the PDP, and some other political parties who are still largely on the opposition side? Where does that leave them?
Now, it leads them into they have 2 choices to make. One is either they pander to the APC,
probably become a merger, collapse their party and merge.
Yes, for instance, now, the PDP may even want to merge with the APC because the way they were operating for 2 years, they were operating as a leprous leg of the APC.
Why?
Because of the fact that even the role of Wike alone in the party has shown that the PDP was not an opposition party. So the PDP may even end up, I am not a prophet of doom, and I hope it does not end up that way. The PDP may even end up merging with the APC. So it leaves the other party the option. So the point I'm making is this, and it looks very funny. Is either the PDP merges with the PDP or they merge with the ADC.
No, you want to say that again. You want to say the PDP merges with the APC.
Is either the PDP merges with the APC,
okay,
or they merge with the ADC. They have only 2 options because they cannot stand alone. Because
what makes you think the PDP cannot stand alone? Is the
Because-
PDP, are you saying the PDP is dead?
I already said so, that the PDP is a ghost. Already is a ghost of itself. Because you know why?
You see how people in the PDP,
They are there. But if you know what the PDP was, you know why they call somebody a ghost? When somebody looks at you, what you wear, you promise you are going to rule the country for more than 99 years. You could not even contend for more than 15 years. And look at the squabble that you are suffering from. So they have an option. So it's either, and it's a self-inflicted injury. Any system that does not obey their set rules will suffer from what PDP has suffered from. And if the APC continues the way the PDP did, APC will go the same way that the PDP is going now. Because there is no inelastic limit to the level of expansion. So if you're a balloon, for instance, you keep on pumping and you don't have a suspension, you will blow. You are going to blow. So the APC should not be very excited that they are expanding, because that expansion can also be a precursor for explosion.
but they're managing the party well. It doesn't look like they have anything that will puncture that.
It's the same
you're
thing that the
talking about.
PDP did. They were managing the party well. You know? So the argument I'm making is that, so the Labour Party, the ANPP, the NNPP,
The PDP,
and all of them
all embroiled in crisis
have
as
an
we speak.
option, you know, to match or to form a coalition. If you don't match, you can maintain your individual entity, but form a coalition with a particular party and expand your influence.
Dr. Chris, there's an aspect to this conversation that we need to look at. You recall when this whole coalition thing started, it started with the SDP. When El-Rufai left the APC, joined the SDP. Conversations were more about the SDP. I think it wasn't up to 2-3 months thereafter, we started hearing about the ADC as an option. But leadership issue, authenticity with regards to membership, which is still the same problem the ADC is facing now. I am sure you have seen Kachiku's interviews across several TV stations. Yes, released press releases talking about the structure, the leadership of this ADC. He has questioned them. He used the term came through the back door, that they were dealing with the former leadership, and that the leadership that handed over to the David Mark-led interim leadership had expired 2022. Now, the SDP had leadership issue before the SDP was, jettisoned, and now that coalition has front-loaded into the ADC. Here we are having validity issue. How valid are these people? They came through the back door. They are not the authentic leadership. Do you think the ADC will go the way the SDP went, especially with someone like Kachiku who's ready to go to court?
I think they have to manage all the issues. I don't think it's entirely correct. If a tenure expires and there's no national convention for a party, then the ESCO can be extended, or there's a caretaker arrangement. But whatever is the case, those are issues that the ADC should handle. They should have thought about that, and they should have been able to handle it.
He says due process. He says due process was not followed.
You mentioned some names.
Yes, please.
You mentioned some names about. You mentioned El-Rufai in the SDP. There is something in marketing that is called branding, and the political party is also a brand. It's also a product, just like candidates are. And so political parties should be able to brand themselves. And branding actually is a science of differentiation. That is what makes you different from the other person. So the ADC should be able to reinvent themselves to bring a brand that can be different from the APC brand. That's the point I made earlier, about the fact that if the ADC, there's a candidate that ADC will bring. and their brand would have gone out of extinction or would have been a negative brand that can even infuriate Nigerians. But there is a brand, there's a candidate that they can put forward, and their brand will compete with the APC brand, because it is clear that President Bola Tinubu is the face of the APC, is the brand of the APC. So any brand that is going to contend with APC must be a brand that is either as equal as President Bola Tinubu or better than him to win the election. So there are faces that Nigerians do not want to see. And there are people that did very badly as governors. For instance, the former governor of Kaduna State. Now, Nigerians do not admire the way he handled the issue of kidnapping in his state.
Insecurity generally.
The insecurity generally.
Yeah.
In Kaduna State. A very intelligent person, very exposed person, very vibrant person, but the governorship tenure he had in Kaduna State exposed him. Brandishing such a person will endanger the brand of ADC. So the ADC must come up with a brand that is acceptable. And having said that, you spoke about the issues of the internal problems.
Yes.
You know, it is true that the ADC will be facing internal problems. All parties have their internal problems.
Yes.
And they should be encouraged to resolve their problem. And if the vehicle becomes very hot for them, then they can change the vehicle.
Oh, so they keep jumping vehicles, huh?
Until they get to the end. Look at what Peter did. How many months did Peter get the Labour Party vehicle? How many months to the election? Peter just stopped the driver of the Labour Party on the way as he was going, and he opened in front and entered. He entered the vehicle and took charge of the speed. The Labour Party was a powerful contender in that election.
But they came third. A distant third.
Nobody ever expected that impact. It's not that measurement of third. When you look at the states of the country that it took over, and then look at also the confusion that also encircled his vote in many states. So however you look at it, that for me is good branding. Okay.
There's something we need to talk about. Two very important things. It will not be a coincidence if largely what dominates the conversation today is the coalition conversation, because that's what you find across most papers. Let's go to the Weekend Trust. I've got two questions from the Weekend Trust. First off, look at these faces. At the middle of the faces, Director, can you zoom in on these faces? There are questions I've got for you. Can you zoom in on the faces? Now, look at the faces. At the center of it all is the former Vice President, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Thank you very much, Director. Do you think Alhaji Atiku Abubakar can jettison his pursuit, his ambition, and surrender perhaps to be vice for a Peter Obi, who you say, if the Peter Obi becomes the candidate who Lamido, Baba Dati Ahmed, and a couple of persons, and some Nigerians who believe he's got, the credential, if he becomes the face of the party, as the party's, flag bearer for the 2027 election, that they stand a chance, do you think Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, in all honesty, who is spearheading this coalition, will jettison his political ambition for a Peter Obi?
Well, it's a test of patriotism. It's a test of loyalty to country. It's a test of nationalism, sense of nationalism. And the test is on Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. The truth is that, and it's a very bitter truth, Ike. The truth is that former Vice President Atiku, if he becomes the candidate of the ADC, he might be struggling behind President Bola Tinubu in the next election.
But he came second in the last election.
It does not matter.
He commands some influence. He came second. Peter Obi came third.
If you compare the strength of the president and the encroachment he has made in the South, you will discover that the former vice president will not have votes from the south.
What made you think so?
Number two, the former vice president will split vote in the north central. Number three, the former vice president will split vote in the north. Again, even though he has a significant,
he has a following.
He has a significant following. But so far as it is splitted, it is an impact on vote. And the president will have to control the southwest totally and significantly the south-south. However, if you turn the map around and change him with Peter Obi on the ticket, Peter will command vote through the consensus of the north, from the north. Peter will command vote from the southeast. Peter will command vote from the south-south. Peter will split vote in the southwest. And the election between Peter and the incumbent president may be a neck-to-neck election. But if you split it again and put Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, it will be very easy for the APC to win the election. And that is the onus. The onus is on ADC. And that's why I'm talking about party and candidate branding. Okay? Now, flip it back again to the strategy of the APC. If the APC ignores the ADC and their tantrum and continue to expand on their programs for the people and get the people to benefit on these programs, expand their credit system, expand the digital economic training on the youth, expand their technology incubation on the youth, expand the educational sector investment, and try to see what they can work around on the economy to be better, and the inflationary trend can reverse.
Okay.
That for me is a better campaign than to begin to respond to the ADC strategy and now begin to dump governance and go for politics.
My last question.
And that is basically the major problem in a two-term governance structure of the country.
My last question. Let's go back to the same weekend trust. The question is just there. And I'm going to ask you the question. How far can the ADC go? Do you think it's just going to be an SPV that will be dumped if they do not achieve their aim in 2027? Or you think that the ADC is here to stay? How far can they go?
Everything on earth depends on intention. It depends on their intention. If their intention is only to grab power, definitely that power will scatter them. But if their intention is to change the fate of the common person, of the common people of the society in Nigeria, then they will surrender their personal and parochial and primordial interests and keep the overriding national interest ahead of their personal interests. So when the question will be asked on each of them. Are you ready to surrender your personal interest to the overriding national interest? When they answer that interest to the positive, then they can go far. But if they answer that interest to the negative, then they will end abruptly. And I so answer.
You so answer. And I so hear.
Yes.
Let's talk about one older issue. This was a topic in the country, was a very hot topic, the issue of the suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan.
But we forgot to mention the point that, the whole idea of making political activities a project is an idea that should be discouraged. And that is why I support the idea of a single-term governance.
For how many years?
6 years straight term. Because the amount of money,
ongoing constitution,
the amount of money,
the constitution review is ongoing.
The amount of money we spend
Dr. Chris,
on politicking,
Dr. Chris,
is far more higher than the amount of money
review
we need for
is ongoing.
It's
not far from here. You can find your way to Ikorekpene and make that submission.
I'm going
beautiful.
After
it might be considered. Yeah. It might be considered.
No, I think
the constitution review is ongoing. It might be considered.
It's a very serious issue.
Okay.
If you see what president and governors pass through because they don't want to fail. And they're afraid of failure.
Okay. You can make that submission.
Yes.
All right. Because I think today's day 2 and it's the final day. It's across regions. The one for the South Office in the correct manner. Of course, you can make the submission. You never can tell. We may find that one in the Constitution. Now, yesterday, as I did say, one very topical issue that when this happened was everywhere. Everyone talked about it. The court gave a ruling on the matter, and that had to do with the suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Come with me to the Punch. From the Punch newspaper, it says, Senate gives conditions for Natasha's return after court judgment. Now that's one. Also captured in The Nation. Natasha, court affirms Senate's power to discipline members, convicts lawmaker for contempt, fines her 5 million, and asks the Senate to reconsider her suspension. Now, I like the term here, reconsider, because in other papers, let's go to the Weekend Trust. In other papers, it's all about semantics now. From the Weekend Trust, look at the word, orders. Court orders Senate to recall Natasha. You're an English person. Communications.
Well, it's
semantics.
It's a news framing strategy. And
orders.
And
the preceding paper says reconsider.
I think the reconsiders appears to be a better way to place the order of the court. But you see, the other one is semantic because an order is an order, but an order is not that is not compulsory on an institution
like the Senate.
Like the Senate may just be advisory. Okay, so now the issue is that we have discussed this several times, and I've been one of the persons that opted for the idea that Natasha took the wrong step at the wrong time. You know, she erred from the beginning. I do not look at her as somebody that deliberately wanted to cause trouble.
You think she was misled?
I think that she latched onto emotions more than reasoning. And you know, there are two things, and they don't meet many times: emotions and reasoning. Okay, so Natasha had a mindset of who the president was to her, and I think that she was a little bit frustrated that she did not get exactly totally of what she wanted, and she got very annoyed. Instead of engaging dialogue, okay, dialogue would have been the best way to go about it, because lobby still remain a valid, legal, fundamental tool of legislation. You are qualified to lobby. You can lobby your colleagues. You can lobby your superior. But sometimes, if you use the word fight, let's change the word and replace them. Let's change the word lobby with fight and see whether it will end up well. It will not end up well. So lobby is better. So I think that Natasha made some mistakes. And, you know, but once you make fundamental mistakes and you have an ego problem, you cannot reverse.
Now, I want us to speak to something which is very, very, apt in this conversation. Let's go back to The Nation. As it says, court affirms Senate's power to discipline members. This has been one of the subjects of controversies, as many have come out to say that a suspension was a witch hunt.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that many people were lashing on sentiment and emotions, and some people were also trying to weaponize gender, and it's not very fair on men. Just like it will not be fair on women when men weaponize gender against women. It's not also fair on men when women weaponize gender against men. When issues are on principle, when issues are on institution, when issues are on legality and law, no sentiment should be attached on it.
Procedures.
And the court has said so. You cannot speak out of your seat.
You need to be on your seat.
That is the law. You swore to it. So it's not about whatever happens in your bedroom or what happened in the clubhouse or what happens in the underneath club or what happens anywhere is not the Senate business. When you come to the Senate, your personal life, keep it at home. Now, when you leave the Senate building, you can now reinvoke your personal life within the jurisdiction of the law. So that is where Natasha got it wrong. And the court has been able to put it straight. I'm afraid that if Natasha does not hurry to hasten to reconciliation, most sanctions may come her way in many other cases that are pending.
Well, there are other pending issues.
Yes.
There are other pending issues.
There are many
She has legal hurdles.
There are many of her communications that slips toward blackmail, slander, and defamation because of lashing on sentiment and emotion. So when you are annoyed, don't speak because you are likely to make mistakes. And when you're a public officer, take note, your communication is called public communication. When you are a private person, your communication is different. But once you are elected or appointed into a particular office, the word public will be attached to your communication. And so what you do is called public communication.
Well, before we go on a short break, you think she must have learned a lesson? Because, of course, the court has ordered her to publish an apology, something she vehemently said she wouldn't do, even after many people advised her to do so.
Now, it depends on how it takes it from here. Because for those other hurdles she has in many other courts, reconciliation is the key. If she initiates and shows that she is not
remorseful,
that she's remorseful on many of those quotas, those cases can actually close up. I will always advise for alternative dispute resolution. Conflict is not the best way to go. No matter how expensive peace is,
it remains the best option.
It remains the best option.
Above the masthead of the nation, where I'm going to ask my last question from, Constitution review will guarantee a just federation, as the President of the Senate declared open the review yesterday. The ongoing Constitution review.
Yes.
I'd like to ask you, what are the areas you think we should be looking at? Yeah. Many people have said we shouldn't be reviewing this book, this Constitution. We should have a new Constitution that is more people-centric, that is more all-inclusive. Do you share in that sentiment?
The word new is not possible. It's a fallacy. There's nothing new. So the word new should be removed at all. Every new idea is grounded on an older structure. So we can build from what we have, but we have to look at the point I want to make from what the Senate President is saying is sincerity of purpose. Is the Senate or the National Assembly and the State House of Assembly and then Nigeria ready for major changes in the Constitution that can advance our growth? Can they execute it? Can they implement it? Starting from the creation of states and local government areas to the amendment to our electoral laws and constitutional provisions in terms of our elections to avert the kind of confusion that we had in the last election, that a whooping 200 billion was spent on an infrastructure that was set aside as not consequential. Is the Senate and the National Assembly and the people prepared for amendment to further devolve power?
Is it on the National Assembly now? Is it on the National Assembly?
It will still, because the idea of amendment to the Constitution has been made dramatic and very cosmetic for several years. Because even after the effort of amendment, most of these things do not come to work. And so when I listened to the Senate President, I saw in him a desire, but he cannot do it alone. The National Assembly must agree with the executive. The President is somebody that started the evolution of power in his states. I'd like to see him bring it back, bring it to the country.
Where do you want power devolved?
I want power devolved down to the villages. I want us to adopt the Asian tiger system that has worked. It makes development faster. See where China was at 1970, where we were, and see what China has become. Singapore, Malaysia, India, North and South Korea. For you to have a radical and fast development, power must devolve down to the smallest of units.
Isn't that captured in the local government autonomy?
It is not captured.
How?
In fact, there is no role of the councillor in the legislative laws of many of the states. There is no role for the ward. What does the ward do in a month? That is the lacuna. What is the councillor supposed to do in his ward in a month? Who restores the electricity that breaks down in the village? Who is supposed to fix the road in the village that leads to the stream? Who repairs the borehole? Who is to provide seedlings in new farming season for the village farming structure? Ike. That is the challenge that we are facing in our development. The president will not come down and move people to farm by September for the second farming season. Somebody must do that. There must be enabling law for that, Ike. That is why our present constitution does not provide for prosperity, because the center is overloaded with power. The same thing with security. There's supposed to be the security architecture to the village level.
State police is one of the conversations that is predominant on this constitution.
It's beyond even state police. Village police, let's say so. It's village police. We have it. It's already in existence, but it's not formal. When you look at what happened in Benue State and on the plateau, if the community were prepared every day permanently by law for any invasion, do you think somebody will go to that village and shoot young children and burn them and kill them?
Okay. For you, as we conclude this conversation,
so every time
I'll ask you.
I'm sorry about my emotions,
yes.
But every time we get to this state of our discussion, it gets me very, very worried, because we know what to do, but we don't want to do it because of politics.
Now, let us be very specific. As your part in short, what for you as a Nigerian, what would you like to see in this ongoing constitution review, which ends today? What exactly do you want?
What I would like to see is to ensure that devolution of power takes place, and that the autonomy of local government is spelled out without any ambiguity, and it even goes down to the ward and to the village. I'd like to see the traditional rulers, village heads, have a formal role to play, because as it is now, they are working without any backing. And if they are backed, they will work even better. I'd like to see an election that is fully electronic, transmitted electronically, and everybody can be monitored without sabotaging the infrastructure or technology. I'd like to see states being created, and most of them are being created to engender development.
All right.
Understand?
Okay.
So, but for me, I like to see the governance structure better. I like to see that monies are spent to every unit of the country monthly. The resources of the country are spent to every unit of the country.
All right.
Monthly.
Well, thank you very much. Dr. Chris Okon has been my guest this morning, looking at what the papers are talking about. Dr. Chris is a communications expert and a public affairs analyst. He's given his thoughts, he's given his opinions, and lastly, concluded, he's talked about what he'll be looking forward to in this ongoing constitution review, which is taking place across regions in the country. Thank you again, Dr. Chris.
Thank you, Ike. God bless.